Hello everyone and welcome to Cherries Red Army and another video here, and we thought we would be quiet. Well, that's what Bill Foley said. Well, I think we might be a little bit busy between now and the end of the transfer window. I've got Jacob Tanswell from The Athletic, formerly covering Bournemouth on a full-time basis, now covering Aston Villa on a full-time basis, but still dips the water a little bit, don't you, in the Cherries, Jacob, and a little bit more. How you doing, my friend?
I'm all good, thank you. Yeah, I think that's probably the result of covering 3 clubs in 3 years. That you've got fingers in a few pies with Bournemouth the first year. Then I'm doing a bit of Southampton, and now Aston Villa. I'm quite fortunate in a way that Southampton's transfer business has coincided with Bournemouth, so I've been pretty comfortable there.
Which is why I think it's a really good opportunity to speak to you. So look, get your thoughts in the comments if you're watching this video. Do subscribe to the channel and smash that like button. Well, Jacob, let's get straight into it because David Brooks had a beautiful performance against Swansea. He needed it. It was a comfortable win for us in the FA Cup. And then he showed his desire to play more football in an interview. He probably didn't get the answers he wanted on the Monday. And then very, very quickly, there's movement. Another Bournemouth player's heading off to Southampton. Just like Joe Rothwell, David Brooks is pretty much on his way to completing that loan deal to the end of the season.
Yeah, Southampton will thank Bournemouth in the season if they get promoted because they've given them a big helping hand. I think the Joe Rothwell one came out of the blue. I was quite surprised at that. My understanding from the start of the month was that Bournemouth, Southampton, could do 2 players, but they predominantly wanted a right winger. So I thought that would come first. And David Brooks is someone that was always on their mind. I think Bournemouth were reluctant to let him go because they're the lack of midfield cover or wing cover, especially with Semenyo at AFCON. And obviously Jayden Anthony's out on loan still. So they probably didn't want to weaken themselves like that. But at the same time, I think it got to the point now where David Brooks has obviously had a real difficult few years. He just wants to go out, enjoy football, play regularly. And he pushed for this move. He obviously enjoys it at Bournemouth, but he knows that game time, especially between now and the end of the season, is crucial. And Russell Martin's a very good man manager. He's got a good plan for David Brooks. He'll play a lot. And he's going to be part of hopefully a promotion-winning team as well. So I think it makes sense for him. For Bournemouth now, they're going to be looking in terms of how they replace him. Obviously, Roman Faivre could come back, but at the same time, they probably will have to. I think they will try and do something in the attacking areas. They do hold interest in multiple attackers. It's just whether the finances and the opportunities comes up, really.
Yeah, we'll dive into a little bit on Roman Faivre in a minute. But when Bill Foley took over the club, Jacob, I said, I can't wait for the day that we help out Southampton because it's always us going to them. Have Artur Boruc, here's Jack Stevens. I mean, we had Shane Long as well. I'm not sure if that was helping us, but we did get Shane Long. And now it's have a very good footballer in Joe Rothwell, have a very good footballer in David Brooks, and they're doing okay in the Championship from what I'm seeing from afar. They're very much in the running for promotion back to the Premier League. I'm not sure all Bournemouth fans are happy about this, trying to help them come up, but I look at it, it's like, well, at least it's 3 points at St Mary's next season if it happens.
I'm not too sure about that. So it is a nice relationship. There might be a bit of acrimony between fans, but between the two hierarchies, I think they're quite happy with each other. I think they'd like to swap players, remove some guys that you don't use off the wage bill and vice versa. I think it works. And I'm surprised about Joe Rothwell. I think he's a really good player, and I thought maybe he'd have some part to play in Bournemouth's season. David Brooks, I'm not overly surprised about because Bournemouth did have a plethora of wingers. The only issue is now is that they do find themselves short all of a sudden. But I think it's good that 2 local clubs can do this and help each other out. Southampton are on a 22-game unbeaten run, the longest in the EFL, second longest in history. Sorry. So everything's looking positive. So Brooks and Rothwell coming into an environment that's winning, and who knows at the end of the season if Brooks really enjoys it, especially Brooks, he might want to push to come. And even if he doesn't, then hopefully this experience will serve him well going back to Bournemouth.
Yeah, let's talk about Joe Rothwell. It's an interesting one because I think he did a good job when he came into the side last season. You've got to remember that he came to us as a progressive counter-attacking midfielder from Blackburn, had very good stats in the Championship. And I've said this before on the channel, by default, really, he fell into a defensive midfielder to do a job, played a part in keeping us up, got an assist at the Emirates against Arsenal. I know we lost the game, but he's a very, very good player. He's a ball carrier, really. And he did start in the opening day against West Ham. He was at fault for helping Bowen get the equaliser, or they took the lead, but the 1-1 draw. But then didn't really see a lot of football after that. And then when you're not getting on at all against QPR in the FA Cup, I think his days were numbered. So not sure the full extent of the story there, but very talented footballer, probably not playing in the position he wanted to play.
Yeah, also, Andoni's got a very specific player. That's why you probably don't see David Brooks, Rothwell as much. There's certain players that really work, i.e. Ryan Christie, and certain players that are really good, but they don't work. You saw that, I had that example at Southampton. There's a lot of great, technical talent, but they just sometimes don't fit the system. Mario Lamina was a case in point. Similar to Rothwell, good ball progressor, but in his high pressing style, maybe, there's a few issues or a few defects with his pressing. So it all depends on the manager. So I'm not surprised at that. The only thing I'm surprised about is Rothwell coming to Southampton because he's not an automatic starter, and he probably won't be in the first choice. There's a lot of midfielders. You look at midfield, it's probably the strongest area. You got Flynn Downs, West Ham last year, Stuart Armstrong, Alcaraz, Aribo, Will Smallbone. These are players that have got good pedigree. So I'm surprised he's gone here. I was not surprised overall he's gone on loan. It's just that he's gone to Southampton, which are doing well, but he's probably going to be on the bench and coming on for 25 minutes.
That's interesting because I think if we do want to make some money back on Rothwell, we got him for a free, but we want to cash in a little bit. He needs to play. He needs to play well. And then maybe we'll get a half decent fee for him because I think he's still got 2 years on his contract. So we'll see how that plays out for Joe Rothwell. The big one is David Brooks then. And look, what David Brooks has been through to even be in a position to play top level football, it is a massive achievement, massive respect. And he's loved by the fans, Jacob. And David Brooks on his day, we know how good he is, but it is more than that with Andoni Iraola. It is a style. Look how Ryan Christie's had to adapt his game to fit in, but not only be the driving force behind what we do going forward, going backwards. And for me, the style was always going to be the issue with David Brooks. You have to take the opposition that we played against in Swansea. They are a hot and cold championship side, and they weren't very good on the night. But in the Premier League, he struggled for minutes. But when he has come on, he's not really made a difference. And I suppose Andoni Iraola, Jacob, was in a sort of, he wants to play him. He loves the kid, maybe. But when you've got the likes of Semenyo, Sinisterra, Cliver, Philip Billings trying to squeeze his way into the side, I mean, there's just not enough positions, is there?
No, there isn't. But that was one of the reasons why Bournemouth were reluctant to go, because they felt actually if he just waited a little while, maybe there would have been an opening. But at the same time, Brooks needs to get a rhythm going. I think that's the most important thing for him. He's been a bit stop-start. He's adapting to obviously a new system, which is highly physical. And for a guy that's gone through what he's gone through, to get himself up to that fitness, to be that physical robustness as well, it's a huge task for him. I think it probably suit him back at. He's staying in South Coast. We just have to move. He's staying with his family and his fiance. The question now is, will he adapt to Russell Martin's system? And I think he's going to have more of the ball. Southampton are dominating 70% of the games with possession. So hopefully that means he can find his feet again. He can be that creative outlet like he was in, for Bournemouth pre his illness. And hopefully he just becomes that footballer that everyone knows he is, and he plays more regularly, and you'll hopefully see in time those type of performances he put in against Swansea at a more consistent level as well, which will only serve him and potentially Bournemouth next season better.
Do you think David Brooks has still got a future in an AFC Bournemouth shirt?
I do think it depends, obviously, on the manager as well. If Andoni's there for a length of time, I'm not sure he overall fits the system. I think there's a feeling around that club that maybe he's not the player that Andoni likes, or the type of typical footballer or winger that carries out his demands. I think it's too early to say. It obviously depends on how well his time at Southampton goes. If he does really well, there will surely be an appetite from fans and the club to bring him in, or even still, that might be another club that sees what he does and says we can sign him. So Bournemouth will be able to hopefully sell for a good price. Whether he can stay at Bournemouth is another question. I do think it depends on Andoni and his over style of play. I think there'll be a lot more change in the summer with the structure changing from above as well. So that's something to pay attention to.
We'll move on to the deadline day in just a moment. But what that does mean is we're starting potentially to look a little bit light. But no worries, because Bill Foley has a plan. And he did sign Romain Faivre in the summer, loaned off to Lorient. He had a good time at Lorient previously before we bought him on a permanent basis. But Lorient are not having a good time at all. I think they're bottom of the French top league. And I think Romain Faivre is not even part of the action. They haven't won since the end of October, John Spark told me. So they're not in good time. But he's not injured. So what's the deal here? What do we know about Romain Faivre? Because there is a talented lad in here. I think there's 5 goals, 1 assist. Is there a concern for attitude? Why are you not part of the team that clearly needs talent to try and get up the league. But if he's coming back to Bournemouth, does he bring fresh enthusiasm and energy to prove he is a good player?
I must admit, I don't know too much about him, but I think there's excitement with Bournemouth in terms of excited that he will come back. But at the same time, when you're in such a relegation scrap or when things are going so horrifically poor, you're probably pointing fingers in the change room. You're probably looking at him thinking, he's off at the end of the season. Does he really care? It might look like he wants to care, but subconsciously, will this really make a difference for him? So I think maybe the manager, it's pure speculation, maybe the manager's just gone for his trusted allies and the guys that he sees a bit getting down in the trenches, and maybe that's not him because he's obviously got the Premier League rainbow to come at the end of the season. So I think it probably makes sense just to bring him back a little bit early, even if he doesn't play. He can come use the next 3 or 4 months to acclimatise to the methods, and hopefully that means he can hit the ground running the next season.
Because this is a really delicate moment for Romain Faivre, because David Brooks, as I said, is a massive fan's favourite, and he's effectively replacing him in the squad. When you look at his heat map for Lorient, he does play on the right-hand side. I thought he was more of a number 10 when we signed him, but maybe he can play that and off the right. But you go from a fan favourite to someone you don't really know. If he doesn't have the right mentality, or he doesn't look like he's trying, or he's a little bit lazy, we know with a lot of football fans, especially Bournemouth, if you don't have the right attitude, we do like players who wear their heart on their sleeve. And if Roman doesn't have that mentality and he's not performing, is it going to be a tough ask for him to sort of get into the love of the Cherries?
Yeah, it will be, but at the same time, he's going to be coming over to the Premier League. He'll be eager to impress. Of course, he's going to put everything into it, especially early on as well. The question is whether he plays that often. David Brooks was not playing. The reason why he's going is because he did feel like he's playing enough, and he's essentially taking his place. So the question is whether if you keep the guys who are in form on the flanks, and if it's Clive who's been playing in number 10 sometimes, and if they're playing, then he probably won't get a lot of game time. It's probably just more about having depth really and options, because all of a sudden, as you say, they Bournemouth look light.
I want to do some really quick fire sort of questions at you now with regards to some of the transfers that have gone through, and then we'll talk about deadline day, because the fans are now starting to get excited. This is what we do in January. We thought we were going to be quiet, but we get really busy as it gets closer to the final day. Let's talk about Hibernian. We know that Bill Foley's trying to link up with this multi-club system, and Marcondes has gone off to Hibernian. He had a pretty decent debut. I think they drew 2-2. Look, Marcondes is a talented footballer. He done very well at Brentford in the Championship, helped them go up. He helped us go up as well. He's a very, very good player. Probably not good enough to break into a side of things that what we're trying to do, Jacob, and trying to get to some dizzy heights. But a great fan favourite as well. Great professional. I think he'll do very well there. I mean, the SPFL is not as good as the Championship, so I think he should adapt there very, very quickly. And then I think Owen Bevan has been rumoured to also heading off there as well. Any information on those two and thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that is the case, and you'll maybe see even more in the future. For Marcondes as well, he's got he's out of contract at the end of the season, so in a way, Bill Foley and Bournemouth are doing him a favour, because he probably won't want to stay beyond the season. But at the same time, he gets everyone talking about him. He gets scouts watching him. He boosts his own value, so he can then move on and get probably a better club. But I went to Hibs early in the season. Aston Villa were playing them in the Conference League qualifier, and it's a massive club. The atmosphere's huge. It's loud. Obviously, it's hostile as well. And so if you've got the likes of Owen Bevan going there, a young defender, you think of the experience you can get. You've already seen it a little bit of James Hill. Obviously, he had difficulties at Hearts last year, but he overall came away with good experience, and he continued that at Blackburn, and now he's back, and he started the last Premier League game, and it didn't look like it fazed him, and that's probably because of the experience he's built, the hard knocks out in Scotland, and moving on his own. So I think it's a great deal. I think it's a really good system that operating, and also fair play to as well Bournemouth for allowing Marcondes to go, because although they benefit in the short term, longer term it'll be the player that benefits.
Yeah, James Hill, you mentioned him. He's come back. He's been recalled from his loan at Blackburn. He had a really confident performance at left back. I know the result didn't go for us on the day against Liverpool, but he can be proud of what he did out of position. And then he started at right back against Swansea, and he picked up a really nasty injury. I don't know if you have any information on that injury, but in one breath, great moment for James Hill, might be cut short.
Yeah, and I feel for him because I remember speaking to him when he was first signed, and what struck me was he's 19 at the time, but he's just got such maturity, and he's very upbeat, he's very positive. He must be great around the change room. You see when they did their fitness test at the start of the season, he's always one cajoling, and for a young lad as well to be that popular and that vocal, it speaks volumes of him. Obviously he's playing left back and right back, but Bournemouth bought him in 2 years ago as a centre back, so he's had to adapt, hasn't he? And I think he's going to have a long future. It's just a shame that it's been interrupted. That especially when he's started to play a few more games in the Bournemouth shirt, it's been interrupted by injury. But hopefully he can come back before the end of the season and maybe impress as well next year. Because that's the thing about this system. It's more about work ethic and attitude over quality. If you're not going to put the quality in, or you're not going to put the work rate in, then it doesn't matter about your quality. So I think Hill's got a really good chance to hit the ground running in pre-season.
And his dad was very proud of him as well. So hopefully we'll see James Hill back in the squad and in a Bournemouth shirt very, very soon. Another player, Jacob. I mean, this guy, it feels like he's been around forever, but his career is just peaked and troughed, and it's Gavin Kilkenny. Looks like he's going on loan again. This time it's Fleetwood. I think his contract's very low. I want to think it's like 2025. Might need to get that corrected in the comments if anyone knows or Jacob. But I just get to the feeling now with Gavin Kilkenny. I thought we did have a player in the Championship, and then he sort of fell out the side in the last stages of that promotion push. Didn't really find a way back in. He's had a loan spell at Charlton that I don't think went to plan. Same with Stoke. What's the future for Gavin Kilkenny? Because I feel like you look at Gavin and it could be a career when you get to the end and feel like you didn't take the opportunities when they come, or you look back and thought it could have been a bit different, because he's a great lad again. And he is talented, but why is he just not going to the next level?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a case of where he's not taking the opportunity. I think he's just been really unlucky, because he had the first 15 games of Bournemouth season when they broke the records of most points and most unbeaten streak. He was outstanding, wasn't he? And he was playing in a structured system. And for a guy that's his height, his stature, playing at the number six position, it takes a certain coach to trust him in that. You don't, because you're getting battered around a lot. And you're probably going to have to be in a team that's very possession based, that keeps the ball, that allows his qualities to come out. Then if he just had a lot of bad luck, Jefferson Lerma, Lewis Cook came back out of the side, and this is where the importance of picking your next loan is is essential to any young player, because the next loan was Stoke, and you think, actually, if you look at it from a stylistic point of view, it's nothing like Scott Parker's Bournemouth at the time. They were more direct, they went longer, and he just lost himself there. And then all of a sudden, your stock suddenly plummets, because it's his football, it changes all the time. You go to Charlton and you're in the same mood, and you're struggling to pick yourself up again. And all of a sudden, those suitors that were in the Championship, the type levels of Stoke, aren't there anymore. So you've got to look at League One. You've got to look at League Two, maybe Scotland as well. I know he was very close to going to Scotland in the summer on deadline day. And I'm quite glad for him now that this move to Fleetwood is agreed. It's not signed yet. Maybe it has been over by the time we're talking. And he gets some minutes. The only problem is that they're not doing particularly well. I don't think their style is anywhere near the possession base that allows them to flourish. And unfortunately, it's looking like it's a pretty poor, sad time at the moment. But important thing for him is just to enjoy his football now, because it's been a really stop-start 2 years, and really no fault of his own.
No, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, whether Gavin Kilkenny does extend a contract or whether really his future lies elsewhere. And that's where I think it might lead to. But look, great lad. And let's see if he can have a good second half of the season at Fleetwood. So that means, Jacob, that we might need to do some business, because we've been speaking about left back position like forever now. And Lloyd Kelly's on a short contract. We're not sure if Lloyd Kelly's going to stay. We are hearing, and I feel like the club are trying to keep him, but he's got options on the table. Do we think Lloyd Kelly's going to be here to the end of the season? Is that our gut feeling?
I think he'll be here till the end of the season. I think we'll probably sign a pre-contract somewhere else, unless something drastically changes. Okay,
so let's start at the back, because I feel like we're still short a little bit in fullback positions. We know that Chris Mepham's is staying. We've rejected bids from Sheffield United and Leeds apparently for Chris Mepham, so he's definitely going to be part of the squad. We got this left back position that we were all without a left back. That's why James Hill had to play there. And then when we go over the other side, people are telling me we've got 3 right backs, Jacob, but it looks like we're not going to have any at the moment because they're all injured. I mean, that's a difficult one, Jacob, because really you have got Adam Smith and Max Aarons, and when they come back fit, probably anyone you sign is not going to break into that right back position. But we're currently going into a game at West Ham. We might not have a right back.
No, I think Bournemouth needs to sign a fullback that can play both sides, really, just to compensate. But the issue is that Max Aarons is obviously a very talented player, but at the same time, his backups were Ryan Frederick and Adam Smith, and their injury record over the past 3 years, if we're being nice, is mixed. It's pretty dire, really. And that's the case for Adam Smith as well. He's been had injuries a lot recently. I think a fullback is something that they have to do, or have to look to do, even if it's a short-term gap. If they can't get their number one sign, I wouldn't be surprised if they get a short-term deal. The question also is, how many do they do? A left-back's in position. A striker's a position. Kieffer Moore is likely to leave. So are you prepared to have just Dominic Solanke up front? Or who else are you going to play in that position? And at the same time, like we said, is a winger an option. I think what they probably do is they might get a Morgan Rogers type of player where they can play up front and on the wings, and maybe a left back or a left back that can play right back too. So versatility might be the theme.
Yeah, Morgan Rogers. I mean, look, you've just brought it up. I mean, I'm going to talk about Kieffer Moore in a minute, but you've just brought up Morgan Rogers and you're covering Aston Villa. I mean, they're highly interested in Morgan Rogers. I'm seeing 15 million being tabled potentially for him. I'm also hearing he doesn't actually get in the starting 11 for Middlesbrough. He's a young lad. He had some moments. He didn't get a lot of opportunities, but then he had another loan and I didn't hear much about that one. This is really weird because I don't see it, but I'm not watching enough of Morgan Rogers, so he might have progressed in the last 2 years. But this feels like a really strange bid from Aston Villa.
Yeah, I've wrote a piece about it, hopefully, for when he signs. It came from West Brom, and if you speak to West Brom coaches, they say he's the best academy product they've produced in decades. And Mikel Arteta and Guardiola watched him in the FA Youth Cup semi-final, April 2019. They were impressed as well. I think it feels like a lot of people in football are impressed by him, by his underlying numbers. But if you look at surface level, like we saw at Bournemouth, then at Blackpool when they went down, there's nothing to really shout out about. I think he's playing at Middlesbrough. He started to take more responsibility because Chuba Akpom and Cameron Archer left last year, so he started to step up. But at the same time, he's not consistent producing the goals that everyone expects a £50 million player to do. But Emery loves him. He saw him in his scouting before Villa played Middlesbrough in the FA Cup, and then afterwards, and he's the player that he wants. And whenever Emery wants something, Villa, as history shown, tend to give it to him. So they've tabled 15 million, including the add-ons. That's been knocked back. So they're currently just trying to find a middle ground. So any fee that will eventually be agreed will come as a surprise to Bournemouth fans, I'm sure.
Yeah, I will watch that one from afar. That's an interesting one. And look, Emery's way more intelligent in football than me. So fair play to him if he sees something that I didn't see in the North Stand at Dean Court. From one Spanish manager to another one, and Iriola surely wants something to happen between now and the end of the window, because Kieffer Moore has been of interest for a couple of windows now, and Championship side should be interested in this guy. I think the guy deserves a little bit more respect than he probably gets from the fan base. He scored the winning goal against Nottingham Forest, which confirmed our promotion, but he did more than that leading up to that game, and the guy had broken his foot only months before it, and he also got us going in the opening day against Aston Villa under Scott Parker. So he's struggled with confidence through management changes, and he's clearly going to struggle with the style. You know, he's a type of striker that's probably not Andoni Iraola-able, so we got to appreciate that. But you hit the nail on the head there. One injury to Dom and we're in trouble here, because some fans talk about Semenyo maybe tucking inside and being a backup. I don't see that. I think we tried it against Stoke. Semenyo likes to come off the white chalk. He likes to come off. He likes to bully fullbacks, right or left. He's comfortable on both sides generally to get a shot away. I don't quite see it. I know we're in for Daka really late in the summer transfer window. Do Bournemouth get a striker in, and does Kieffer Moore leave?
I think they could get a striker in. It's really early to tell right now. And Kieffer Moore, there's been talks of him going to, 3 Championship clubs were interested, and it looked like this would get done quite early in the window. It's pretty simple, quite straightforward. And then around the middle of January, my information was that Bournemouth were hoping or were set to keep him because they just didn't see any alternatives. But now it feels like actually they could get a good price for him because of the amount of parties that are interested in him. And there is a chance that Bournemouth could do something. I think a Patson Daka type of signing would probably be the perfect fit. Pacey, low risk, high reward potentially. And it could happen. I think it was so close to happening in the summer. And Kieffer Moore was ready to go. He was all set to go. I think for him, he needs to get football. And it feels like eventually something will happen. But it's just like, it's coming towards the end of the window. But Kieffer Moore's got a history of moving on January deadline day, hasn't he? So nothing will phase him. I think he needs to go. But Cardiff, QPR, Ipswich, these are the type of clubs interested.
Yeah. How hard is it going to be, though, to get a striker in that's going to play second fiddle to Don Solanke? Let's not sugarcoat it. You're not going to walk into this side and play as a number 9. There's rumours about former Bournemouth player Callum Wilson being linked with us, West Ham, Chelsea. Callum, I believe, still lives down south. He's got a soft spot for the Cherries, and he was a great goal scorer for us. Look, a few years have gone on now. I think we would have to blow our wages. I don't even think Callum Wilson walks into this side. So why would he go from playing second fiddle to Isaac to playing second fiddle to Dom Solanke? And he's going to have his own aspirations of trying to get in the England squad. I don't personally see that one, but that just might be papers, rumours doing their thing.
Yeah, that's not happening because I think Newcastle want to keep him, but also he'll be aiming for, Athletic Madrid are interested in him. So no disrespect to Bournemouth, I think he thinks he considers himself as a top 4, top 6 player, or at least the equivalent in Europe. That's why it goes back to my point earlier. No one wants to be the backup to Dominic Solanke. A similar way to why Tottenham struggled to have a backup to Harry Kane for so long. What I think they could do to compensate for that, or to get around that, is to get a player that can play up front, but also on the wing. So you can fit Solanke in with whoever it is. So it could be another similar to Semenyo situation, but also at the same time, if Solanke's not there, don't rule out a tactical change. It might be a false 9 or 2 false 9s or a pressing striker. Who knows? You might even see Cliver go up top, or Billing go up top, or even Ryan Christie's, not just to be a striker, but to press from the front. So there's a lot of little things that you can do to get around Solanke's absence. But yeah, at the same time, you do need to replace his goals if he is injured. The worst case scenario, that seems unthinkable that Solanke could be injured at the moment.
Yeah, so I am sitting closely. Notifications are on, Jacob. I'm expecting things to go off in the next couple of days with regards to people coming through the door, players coming through the door. Likely to be loans because we spent a lot of money in the last couple of windows. So I'm not up with FFP and all that jazz, but I think it's got to be loans. This isn't really a transfer rumour, Jacob, but Philip Billing, look, he signed a new contract at the end of the transfer. Before the season started last summer, he signed a new contract. We know what he can do with his feet. We know he's a very, very good player. We know he can score goals on his day, when he's happy, when he's in confidence. He wasn't even in the squad against Swansea. He has not been in this side regularly. Philip Billing is a unique character, and I think... And I don't know. I don't watch training sessions, but I wouldn't be surprised if Phil Billing gets frustrated. Do you have concerns for Phil Billing in a Bournemouth shirt? Because he's got a new contract. I mean, I'm really worried. Not worried, but I think Phil Billing could potentially move in the summer.
And it's funny because Phil pushed for the contract.
He did.
I think Scott Parker alluded to this as well. He needs to be loved. Philip does. He's that type of character. He needs an arm around the shoulder. He needs to be pumped up. He needs to be told how good he is. And that's the type of character, as you say. He's a complex, fascinating character, and that's why, for all Parker's faults, that's why he got a good deal out of Billing in the Championship. And I think Gary O'Neill did similar as well. Haven't seen Billing in the Championship and how he worked. I think for him now, Billing's probably thinking, hold on, I'm told to run a lot more than I used to, but I don't get anywhere near as much praise, and I don't get anywhere near the amount of minutes. So obviously that's going to frustrate him. He's not the character that's going to keep his head down and be quiet. He's probably going to go into his shower and sulk in a way. And I think that's the type of character is. There's nothing that, it's not a slight on him. It's just how he is and how you've got to react to that. I think what's important is that you don't see Philip as a player that can make a real big impact on the bench. He's the guy that wants to start games because he wants to be appreciated, and him coming on might be taken as a personal slight to him. So I think he just needs to hopefully just be patient, wait for his opportunity, wait for that number 10 role to open up again. And then who knows, he might produce a goal like he did against Burnley, get the ball rolling, and crowd will be singing his name and he'll feel the love of everyone. So I wouldn't rule out anything just yet. But if it gets to April, early May, and this is the same situation, then yeah, for sure he'll be leaving.
Final two questions, Jacob, because I know your time is precious and it's always great to have you on the channel. Should Bournemouth fans stay calm? Will we be okay come midnight on Thursday in the transfer window closes?
I think Bournemouth will get someone in, but at the same time, even if you don't, it's such a good position. Bournemouth aren't going down; they can just absolutely just rock with this. Try and push as high as they can in the Premier League. They've got a manager that, let's be real. We hopefully can get an actual assistant in next season, so that might improve things. And he doesn't leave, and just enjoy. It's such a good time to be a Bournemouth fan. You're getting more players beyond your wildest dreams. You've got the American captain going to be coming back soon. You've got Alex Scott, one of the best young midfielders in the Premier League. You've got a stadium, training ground that's being built, an owner that's transparent, that talks a lot. I just think it's a brilliant time, and just enjoy it. Who cares what happens in it? Really, who cares what happens in the next 24, 36 hours? Because even if you do sign someone, it'd probably be short term anyway. So enjoy it. I think it's going to be such a fun next few months with hopefully not that much pressure on anything.
I'd almost forgot about the assistant. Inigo Perez, get the work permit done. Whatever needs to be done. Let's get Andoni Iraola an assistant. Tommy Elphick, Sean Cooper doing a great job. Final question then, Jacob. You just spoke about Bournemouth being absolutely fine. We've got to get another 15 points to get to 40. I don't think you'll need 40 in the Premier League, but get to that safety net. So we should be absolutely fine. So what do you feel Bournemouth should achieve this season? Because we're in the 5th round of the FA Cup. We've got a very good chance to get to the quarterfinals, taking on Championship leaders. Aston Villa just about still in the FA Cup. What can Bournemouth achieve this season?
I honestly think put eggs in the FA Cup basket, because this is just, I think, a league position, if you finish between 16th and 12th, that really makes much of a difference. If you can get to a FA Cup semi-final at Wembley, that'll be fantastic. But listen, the jury, in a way, if you're going to be sceptical, is still a little bit out. You've won games where you've had maybe the cookies broken in your favour, because Newcastle, the Burnley game with the goal, and Newcastle got the ball rolling, and they had a lot of injuries. Bournemouth had really good runs of form. I've had dire runs of form at the start of the season. When it levels out around this time now, when you've got good fixtures coming up, but also difficult fixtures up, let's see where Bournemouth are, and we'll probably get a better reflection of how consistent this team is. So I think there'll be peaks and troughs in the Premier League, but yeah, like you say, FA Cup, wow, incredible opportunity.
Jacob, it's still going to be a busy few months ahead for you. I'm sure you'll be clocking up the miles. You're doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much for giving us your time and just giving your opinions on the transfer window and AFC Bournemouth again. Really do appreciate it.
Pleasure, mate.
Do show your love in the comments. Do smash that like button. Look, talk about what you want to talk about. Will Bournemouth do some business? Surely we've got to get a player or two through the door, and maybe we'll go on a little FA Cup run. I want a day out at Wembley. Semi-finals. We can do it. From me and Jacob, until the next one, see you soon. Up, Cherries.